Hello, good evening here in Pakistan, and good afternoon there towards Paulson. So I'm Rizwan Akram here in Rizwan Akram classroom. As usual in classroom, there are two type of people: either they are student, either they are teacher. I'm here as a student. For all the guests who come to my classroom are always my teacher because I'm
Mm.
trying to learn from them. So today I have a very special guest, that is Timothy Paulson from USA. Modi, welcome to classroom after so long, I hope so. So, would you like to share about yourself first?
Oh, sure. Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's very, I'm honored that you would want to include me. Yeah, so just to tell you a little about myself, I was introduced to Rizwan by a friend and by a mutual friend, and I've heard about our mutual friend, I'm really not very good at pronouncing names, so I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but it's I believe it's Rehan.
Rehan
Rehan.
Allawala.
Oh, okay, very good. I don't want to speak incorrectly, but Rehan. So yeah, Rahan introduced us through, and I knew about Rahan from a friend, Jeff, um, who he met, and I do similar work as Jeff, and so I was interested in meeting Rahan.
Are you talking about Dr. Jeff?
Yeah, Dr. Jeff. Yes, yeah, Dr. Jeff Burns.
So, I have talked to him. It's about 8 p.m., like 4 hours before.
Oh, wonderful! So you just spoke with him. That's great. That's great. I just saw him yesterday on the
Beautiful
video.
personality and what an admirable soul.
He
Beautiful soul.
is. He's got an amazing story, and I feel like anyone could learn from him quite a bit. I know I have learned some from him. I don't have as an amazing story as he does, but I do similar work. My passion is to go to America. I live in America. I love to go to American churches because I'm a Christian, and I want to go to other Christians and to educate them on who is our Muslim neighbor, both locally as well as around the world, and how can we better understand our Muslim neighbors. How can we come to love them instead of thinking falsehoods or believing things we hear on TV, but actually learn about who these people are because they're created by God and they are people that God loves as well. So just making friendships and understanding better.
Smadi, I hope that a lot of people have told you that by facial, if you don't speak about your name, everyone will understand that you are a Muslim. So you are loved to be. Another thing is that I want to know about your previous history, like from where you got your education and what do you do for your professional living.
Of course, yes, thank you. A little about my background. I grew up, in a Christian home, and I actually went to a Bible college, university that teaches the Bible, and I graduated with a history degree, bachelor's degree, and I really wanted to go to different parts of the world to meet people who are different than I am. And I traveled a little bit, and I ended up doing a master's degree in international development. So my passion is for people of other backgrounds, as well as kind of doing anything I can in order to assist others, to help them to improve their lives in whatever ways they can. And I really see this. This is based in my faith as a person who reads the holy books, who sees what God is commanding for people, to love one another, to do good for one another. And so that's my life aspiration, is to be obedient to God. Um, so then I got into this work because as I grew in friendship with Muslim friends, and where I live, there are many people from East Africa, from Somalia. There are people who are from Pakistan and India who are Muslim, um, from all over the world, and I've developed friendships with some of these people. Um, And as I witnessed, and I'm sure other people have witnessed over the last 4 years or so since our current president was elected, and even before that, there was a lot of falsehoods spread about Muslim people. Our president expressed a desire to ban Muslims from America, and he succeeded in a partial ban of people from Muslim countries. And unfortunately, I witnessed that many people who are Christian agreed with him on these things, and it really broke my heart. It really caused me great pain to see that in people that I see as my, my community, my larger community, almost like the Ummah, and my passion became, how can I help Christians to move away from this place of fear and misunderstanding and move to a place of not just understanding, having head knowledge, but having heart connection to people who are Muslim, and to look for building friendships, to look for developing, a love for other human beings.
Timothy, you are doing an absolute wonderful job. Like you are considered to be the ambassador of peace and humanity. That you are doing the same things that if someone is doing here in Pakistan for the Christianity or for the Hindu minorities, because people will say that you are from their side and internally you might be a Muslim, or you are by name something, we are fake. So a lot of things you have to face. So how you got this inspiration that you are so much stuck to your faith, and you are so much lovely human being for peace loving people?
Mm. Well, really, it is only truly only by the mercy of God. It's one of the things I love when I read the Quran is um, every surah except for the one it begins with "in the name of
Beautiful.
God, the Merciful," and I completely agree. It is God's mercy which saves us, and it's His mercy which helps us to do the good in the world. And so this is really my foundation, is relying on God's mercy. And as I read, I study the Injil. And I read it and I see his commands, the commands of Isa al-Masih, peace be upon him, of Jesus, and then his followers who continued in his teachings. And one of my favorite verses in the Injil, it says, those who, peacemakers who sow in peace will reap a harvest of righteousness. And to me, that means if I want to be, to share in the righteousness that God has graciously offered, it is to be a peacemaker, and it is to offer that to other people who maybe just don't have the right information. Like, we're all lost without God's mercy, but I think He's given us ways to discover more about each other, like what you're doing, to learn more about each other so that we can see each other as human, and we can see each other as people who are beloved by God.
Paulson, don't you think that there are a lot of misconceptions about every religion here in the world? And if the people of different religions come together, have a communication, have a linkage with each other, there not a single point that can be going against any religion in the world. Every religion of the world, in its true sense, is the religion of peace. It's his followers that might can be betray from his path. So we can't blame the religion exactly. We have to blame those people, only those people, not the whole nation or whole community. So don't you think that it's mostly the power of communication that make us more human being, not a being human?
I agree. I think there are many things that get in the way, but if we truly follow what God has revealed, then we will discover that we are getting to know each other. We're coming to love each other, And I think the things that get in the way are the human inventions, whether it's politics, whether it's, my nationality is better than your nationality, whether it's wealth, these kind of things can become an obstacle. But if we follow the teachings that God has revealed, and even people in other faiths, we may not agree 100% on everything in our respective faiths, but we know that there's good in it. We know that people who are from Eastern religions have good in their faith that will draw them towards loving people. And we just need to meet in the middle. We need to not allow our differences to become the defining factor for who we are. And that's me speaking as an American. Our people in America are very much prone to this as much as any other place in the world, that we allow our America first or our nationality to become such an obstacle. And my hope is to help to remove that obstacle, and to get back to the basics that God has revealed.
Paulson, another question come to my mind. To be birthed as human being is an easy way, but to being human is a difficult way. What do you think about it?
I think I missed the first part of your sentence. I caught the second part. Can you repeat that one more time? I'm sorry.
Also, I was asking that uh, to being birthed as human being is not a big deal. It's a part of the nature. But being human throughout the life, it's a difficult process.
That's true. I think that's a good point. I've never thought about it that way before. That makes sense, though, that we're all born, and you even look at children. Children will play with other children. They don't have, maybe they'll say, oh, that's mine, or I want that, but they're not going to hate another child. They have to learn to hate,
They might
and
beat
this
each
is
other, but after then they are same playing with them.
right. They'll continue as friends later. They just had to figure out some conflict. But yeah, I feel like this is something that, and actually, this is something we're learning about ourselves in America right now, because there's a lot of unrest about abuse against certain racial minorities, and I think many in the majority are learning. Oh, we naturally we understand other human beings, but I have learned, as I've grown into an adult, I've learned certain just assumptions about others. I've learned, how to judge others a certain way. And so those things are learned, and like you say, you're born a human, but to continue that in walking in true humanity is difficult. It's a long process. Oh, I think you're muted, Rizwan.
These are things were done by human beings
Oh, go
to
ahead.
being struck with the technology. But
Hmm.
Paulin, what I want to ask you, maybe it's something like you might not like it, but I want to ask about that. Uh, from where this Islamophobia came, like about 20 years ago, before 9/11, I haven't heard the single word about it. Not a single word from any country was being raised before it. So, what happened suddenly? If the people who are attacking someone, they are the culprits, they must be hanged there. But to blaming the whole nation from making something, stamping them, either it's from any nation or from any country, how it came to the mind of the people, either it's artificial polarization.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I've studied this a little bit. Before 9/11 happened, there were many Muslims in the United States, and Many of them, had come as immigrants, many have been here for generations, and meant actually originally the first Muslims came to the United States actually from West Africa as slaves. They were brought here against their will as slaves, but they had been Muslim before they came. And so Islam has a long history in the United States, always as a minority, of course. But it had never been an issue. Like you mentioned, there had not been this Islamophobia before 9/11 happened. There's maybe a little bit of kind of, what do you call it? Maybe a few people may have had some thoughts about Islam, but it was not common at all. But after 9/11 happened, I believe that there was this sudden awareness and the sudden fear, and that event became so definitive for so many people that I think they were willing to believe whatever they heard from, experts or leaders or all sorts of people, and it's easier to believe something simple about someone else, and to ignore the fact that we're complex human beings and that cultures are complex and religions are complex. And so I think it's easier to believe the simple thing, and to just say everyone who's Muslim is like this, everyone who is that you see on TV and they're saying the Shahada, or they're saying, something that sounds Arabic, they're all the same, and this is totally not true. I mean, you wouldn't say that about every Christian or every, American even, because there's such diversity of thought. And that's part of what my goal is to say, even in Christian tradition, you have people who have taken the words and they've twisted them and they have done something terrible with them. Whether it's terror groups like the Ku Klux Klan in America has a long history of killing minorities, and they call themselves Christian. And of course, I would say, well, they weren't obeying God, but they would call themselves that. And so I think this is something that needs to come into the awareness of many Westerners, is that not everyone is the same, and not everyone that you see on TV, that person you see on TV is not representative of even a fraction of Muslims around the world,
Paulson, I want to know about your story. Like you are also the part of the society, and I hope that you are also influenced at some stage from such slogans that are in your surroundings. How you cope up with the thing that all the human beings, all the religions are the religions of peace, and we should love each other, and we should stay with each other with peace and love and humanity all over. What was the turning point?
It's a good question. Yeah, I was sharing this with Rehan yesterday, and my first interaction, or my first knowledge about people who are Muslim, and really I had not really encountered people of other religions growing up. I lived in a Christian community, and in America most people are claim to be Christian, and so that was my awareness. But my first awareness of other faiths was a man came and spoke at our church and he came to speak about Islam. And I thought, oh, great, I can learn something new. And he proceeded to say all these untrue things, all these terrible things. And I remember thinking, like, wow, that's interesting. I need to learn more about this, and I just assumed he was right because he seemed like an expert. And I go on to discover, as I read, as I learn, that these are untrue things. And I think that pushed me to say, I need to learn about people before I make a judgment about people. And even then, not everyone's the same, And so I began to try and learn more over the years. And I spent some time actually in the Middle East. I was studying in Jerusalem, Al-Quds, the holy city, and meeting people from, different faiths, and many people are in conflict with each other, but there are also many people striving for peace with one another from the different faiths. And I think seeing that example was helpful. and reading, and I think just the more that I read the Injil, the New Testament, and the words of Jesus, of Isa al-Masih, is, he spoke in ways to people that were supposed to be the enemy, that were loving and peaceful. He would heal, his miracles were healing people often. And so he would heal people who were Romans, and they were the enemy of the Jews at that time. And he would go to the people who were seen as heretics, as false religion, and he would bless them, and he would offer kindness and mercy to them. And so the more I studied about Isa al-Masih, the more I understood if I'm to follow in his footsteps, because even this is interesting. I was reading the Quran once, because I love to read it about Isa, especially because I love Isa so much. And this one point he says to his followers, obey me, worship Allah, and this is the straight path, And so, and I read this in the different books, like it is important to obey these words and to see his example and to follow in his footsteps. And that to me has been a huge change, or a huge shift in my mind, to say this person who might be my enemy by the standards of the world, they're actually beloved by God, and God wants me to extend to them mercy, the same mercy that God has extended to me. And if I refuse mercy to someone else, then I am dishonoring the mercy that Allah has offered to me.
Paulson, as you have lived in a society with definitely polarized in different things, different sectors, what was the feedback from the society when you start promoting peace? And definitely, you might learn from the people who are loving peace, who are loving religions, who want to be united. But definitely, there are opponents as well. So, what was their arguments about it?
Well, it's interesting. I've been doing these teachings in churches for maybe a little bit less than 1 year now. I've done a few teachings, and I really expected that I would meet more kind of not opposition, but just more people who were not ready to hear this message. But fortunately, the more that I would teach and the more that I would share about my experience with Muslim friends and what I have studied about Islam, the more that people seem to just say, "Oh, these are people. They're people like me. They're people who are trying to raise a family. They're people who are trying to work and to create a future for themselves and their families, and they understand. And it just I like to use the word humanized. Like it really humanized people who are different, And so the more that I did this, the more I encountered that. So I haven't really seen much opposition from people as I've been teaching, which is encouraging. What I have seen, I think, is just more in talking with other friends or in seeing things going on in the political world. I think it's just a lot of fear. And that fear is just based in lack of understanding, I think. Because, for example, I've had friends who talk to me and they say, well, what about these verses in the Quran that talks about go and kill, the infidels or something like that? And I'll say, well, it's interesting because have you read the whole chapter, around that verse? And they say, no, of course not, because they don't want to read the Quran. And I'll say, well, if you read the whole chapter, you'll see that this is warfare that is going on. And this was at the time that the Prophet Muhammad was being persecuted, and his people were, and he was ordering his people that they could defend themselves. And my friends will say, oh, interesting, I never heard that before. And we have similar things in the Torah, in the Old Testament, where people are given permission by God to defend themselves and things like that. And so I'll share those, and I'll say, pretty much almost every religious tradition has something like this. It doesn't mean that you need to go do it. It just means that in certain circumstances this applies, and that often helps people to say, oh, okay, this isn't what I thought it was. And so just maybe adding some knowledge or some context to that has proven really helpful. And I've never had anyone who really argued with me um, too much about that. So that's encouraging that people can learn and change their minds as I've experienced it.
Paulson, what do you think about the fruitful efforts you are going to do? Either people are understanding about it, or people are getting mold their minds, their thoughts, or there is some people who you think that can't be managed, or they can't understand such positive and lovable things. What's your view?
Yeah, I think as a nation or as a large group of people in America, we're maybe not we're maybe not ready yet for that kind of thing. I think because there's still a lot of influences going on that pull us in different directions. You know, we have an election coming up, and from what I've studied, the Islamophobia increases every election year. You know, and then it goes back down again, and it's because politicians often use this as a tool to create fear, so then they will be supported as a solution to the fear. You know, and so I think on the big picture, there's still a lot of work to do. um, on the smaller picture, because I've seen people respond to just basic information, you know, like what I shared with you. I would share with them about the context of the Quranic verses, but then other things like talking about Sharia law. You know, and in America, many people are afraid of Sharia law, and I'll just explain to them. I'll say, well, this what you have been told is not true about Sharia law, and it is not something that you need to fear. Um, and we'll discuss those kind of things. So I think there's hope, especially when it's coming to the one-to-one conversations, the small groups where I'll go and teach, and they'll hear and they'll start to understand. My hope is, kind of twofold. One is to say, let me approach the leaders of churches and of groups here, and they can pass this information on to their communities, because I can't engage every person, one on one. Then the other one is to, once people begin to grow in their knowledge that Muslims are people just like me, that they will begin to move into a place of seeking friendship. So it's going from just having knowledge in your head, to what am I going to do with it? And so can I find a friend, a Muslim who I can befriend, and we can have conversations and we can learn more about each other, and we can teach each other and we can hear each other, and then so that's one of my goals, is to eventually kind of engage in this friendship building between Muslims and Christians, with my work being on the Christian end of things, because I'm not Muslim and I don't want to speak for Muslims, but I want to speak to Christians as a Christian.
Paulson, you have beautiful thoughts and beautiful ideas and a beautiful soul, definitely. And it seems something like that. I have told to Jeffrey that it's about the law of attraction, or it's about something that, according to our belief in Muslims, that before our birth of every human beings, soul are being created about 100,000 years ago,
Hmm.
and all the souls are under the roof of God, so they are staying over there. So those souls who met there, when they come to this world, after meeting each other, they thought they are friends. However, they are meeting for the first time. It's
That's
because
beautiful.
their souls met before in a certain period of time.
Hmm.
And after, when you pass on, then there's another thing. But I think that we are the people who are connecting, try to
Hmm.
learn from each other, try to connect from each other. We are somehow the departed souls who
Hmm.
are spreading in the whole world and
Hmm.
now trying to connect with each other. And after connecting with each other, we are wondering that why we have the same thoughts in the
mm,
different part of the world, but the person is thinking same as like me. How is this possible?
mm,
I think it's because your souls might have met over there.
mm.
What do you
That's
believe about it?
that's beautiful. I think I've never thought about that before. I think that's a wonderful thought, you know, and I think, you know, I would agree, especially in that we are all created by the same creator, right? And he has and God or Allah has certain characteristics that define who He is, and He has created us, I believe, in order to live out those characteristics, those values, and I think He's even ingrained them into our very soul. Um, and when we disobey Him, it's simply us disagreeing with what God has said is good, you know. But when we are living in truth, when we're living in peace with God and each other, it's simply us reflecting from Him um, the values and the truth of who He is that is reflected in us because we're His creation. Um, yeah, I think, you know, if there is anything before birth, I think that would make total sense. You know, that we are getting to know each other because we're in the same we're in the Creator's mind. You know, we're in His heart to start with. So
Paulson, it was lovely talking to you. It was a beautiful time you have given to me, and it was definitely more valuable time, valuable things you have added to life of the listeners and to me as well. According to me, that if we are start talking to each other on different areas of the world, the people will come closer, and definitely this distance doesn't matter. We'll thinking same and much how if we are thinking differently, still it will be a respectful manner.
mm,
It would be a lovely and you can say peaceful manner to
mm,
talk to each other, have an argument with each other. We
mm,
are not saying to someone to change his mind, to have some sort of brainwashing.
mm.
Just stick to his belief, but respect the other's belief.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Exactly.
Paulson,
I
thank
think,
you.
of course. Yeah. I'm honored to speak with you. Thank you so much. And I agree 100%.
So
We
sweet of
are,
you.
even if we come from different perspectives, we can agree on, you know, understanding one another. You know.
Thank you so much, Paulson. It was really lovely talking to you, and you have given me the beautiful time and the beautiful words and most over the beautiful message you have given.
Mm,
And it might change the perspective for here. Let the people who are living in West are
mm,
a lot more positive than we are thinking about.
mm,
Either and same as to you that the people who are living here in East are not all the same. Like if someone is doing bad, he is
mhm.
responsible for his doing, not the whole country or not the whole nation. So thank you so much for your time and for your loved ones. Thank you
Of
so much.
course. Thank you
And
so much.
goodbye, Allah Hafiz, and good afternoon over there and good night here.
Good night. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.